Good, y'all. Dr.Trehunna on the walk. You already know what I be doing, Always getting that walk in, and I got a crazy reset challenge that's coming very, very soon. So I'm about to see me lose about 30 pounds in real time, all right? Now, a lot of my clients already know that there's some sort of carbs I really don't want you to have. It's mostly simple carbohydrates and also whole food simple carbohydrates such as beans, cornbread, rice, or potatoes. But today, what I'm gonna cover is the absolute worst carbohydrate you can have and why this is the worst carbohydrate due to what it does in the human body, okay? So, a lot of people like corn, a lot of people like potatoes, a lot of people like rice, but the absolute worst carbohydrate that literally does nothing for you is bread. Now, ironically, this is the one that we usually eat frequently or more often, right? When you go to a Mexican restaurant and you having them chips and queso, a lot of people don't know the chips is literally just baked bread, just coming from a tortilla, right? First thing when you go into a restaurant, what's the very first thing they give you? They give you bread and butter. Why? Because this bread serves no purpose or holds no value. We can give you this bread, right? And we don't have to reserve it. If you do not touch the bread, guess what? We're just gonna throw it away. It has no purpose, okay? Bread is cheap, right? But ironically, a lot of Americans, we literally have bread with every single meal or at least once or twice a day, all right? So what I'm gonna cover is why you shouldn't have that much bread, or if you're gonna have it, just don't have as an abundant amount of bread throughout the whole course of a week, all right? Now, this is coming from an ex-breadhead. I used to eat bread every single day. I used to be somebody that loves bagels and probably have a bagel, if it's up to me, at least once or twice a day, literally, right? But that was during the time when I was also fat, all right? So, what bread does in the human body, first off, a lot of people are eating our refined carbohydrates or refined bread, which means that it's not real bread, It has no fiber into it. So remember the craze back in like a decade or like 15 years ago, everybody used to talk about, you need to have honey wheat bread, wheat, right? This is a better type of bread just overall. Why was they saying that? They were saying that because this bread had whole grains in it, which means it had natural sources of fiber with it, But when it's all said and done, majority of the breads that you see at the supermarket that has a label to it, these breads are not the real bread that they're referring to when they're talking about whole grain breads. They're just a better version of the regular white bread, all right? White bread usually has absolutely zero or very not a good amount of fiber in it, maybe like 1 gram of fiber, and it got 14 grams of carbs or something like that, Now, when you have bread with fiber or a real bread, you're gonna come to realize that if you went to an actual bakery and they give you real bread, that bread only lasts 3 days. Why? After that 3 days, if you have that bread, you can use it as a weapon. It feels like a brick. You can throw it at somebody's head and you can kill them, literally, because it's getting stale. That's what real bread's supposed to do. Now, refined carbohydrates or refined bread, what they do is they go ahead and add a lot of sugar into it. That way, because sugar, it basically is hydrophilic, which means it basically can allow water to basically stay in the bread longer than usual. So that's why you can have a bread in your pantry for about 4 to 5 months, and technically you feel like it is still good enough for you to eat or consume, right? Because it's still soft, right? But that's because they're giving you more sugar inside that bread so it don't go stale. It is refined, okay? That's not how bread naturally comes. If you buy real bread, once again, it's gonna expire in about 3 to 4 days. There's no reason why bread should last a whole entire month, all right? But that is not the main reason why I don't want people to have bread, not because it's fake. It's because that if you actually pay attention to bread, what it does is a high glycemic carb, which means what? Once it immediately hits your small intestine and breaks down in your stomach, it's gonna immediately turn into sugar, all right? Now, when it breaks down into sugar is not the worst thing in the world. It's about how much you consume throughout the day. But this sugar is so high glycemic, that means that it's ultimately gonna cause more damage to your arteries and veins than good. So it's always at a net negative when you have a high glycemic carb. But also what this is gonna do, because your body received so much glucose at one time, it's gonna produce more insulin. Now, when your body produces more insulin for a high glycemic carb, what's gonna happen is the insulin is gonna push down or make sure that the glucose is not staying in the bloodstream. It's gonna push it down to the point that you become hypoglycemic. When you're hypoglycemic, those are the people that feel like, oh man, I feel jittery or I feel lightheaded and I'm hangry, right? This is because you're in a hypoglycemic state, or your blood sugar levels are low due to the fact of that hyperglycemic carb that you had earlier. That's why they actually give you bread first things first when you go into a restaurant. Why? Because that bread is going to make you more hungrier. Now you're going to eat a little bit more. Now you're going to order that appetizer. Now you're going to order that entree. Now you're even thinking about dessert because you had that bread earlier, okay? So everything happens for a reason. It's just about if you're aware of that, But that is not the main reason, once again, that is the worst carb. The absolute worst reason why bread is the worst type of carb is because of the components that's within bread. So when you have refined carbohydrates, majority of bread has gluten in it. People already know that, that's why I see a lot of gluten-free stuff, because gluten contains a protein in it called gliadin, all right? So always remember that. Gliadin is the main reason why gluten is bad for you, okay? So because it contains this thing called gliadin, what it does, it basically disintegrates your gut, which means that your gut becomes more permeable because you had gluten. That's why people who have celiac disease, when they have it, or have some gluten, it seems like they're about to blow up, like they're about to just automatically die because it has some gluten. It's not really the gluten, it's because of the components in the gluten called gliadin, all right? So when you give your body gliadin, your body responds to it. It's gonna basically go into a receptor that's gonna make your body, in your enterocytes, by the way, if you wanna know. But it's basically going to make your body produce something, or an enzyme called zonulin. But what zonulin does, it basically disassembles the tight junctions. Now the tight junctions in your epithelial cells is basically the thing that basically don't allow bacteria or gram-negative bacteria such as lipopolysaccharides into your bloodstream. So basically, this is the main thing that causes inflammation. If you have a lot of lipopolysaccharides, this actually causes people to have depression, become insulin resistant, start the incidence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, etc. A lot of lipopolysaccharides causes a lot of issues in the human body, right? But gliadin is basically like the key to allow these lipopolysaccharides to go crazy in the bloodstream, And this all stems from bread. Not rice, not potatoes, bread, So if you are somebody who's trying to get into a healthier state, what you need to do is make sure you focus on how much bread you consume a day, because too much bread is going to cause you to produce too much gliadin, and that's going to cause you to produce lipopolysaccharides, which is going to cause you to start having autoimmune diseases, start having more allergies, food allergies. Why? Because now if the food proteins that you're eating, such as a strawberry, such as a blueberry, or your favorite food, goes into your bloodstream, your body is looking at this like, hey, this is not supposed to be here. This food particle is not supposed to be in the bloodstream. So what we're going to do is create antibodies so anytime it comes again, it could destroy it. But ironically, you don't think nothing of it because this is your favorite food, right? So you're ingesting it probably like once or twice a week. So once you start reintroducing it, you start to notice that you don't feel as hot anymore. You start to have symptoms. Why? Because your body actually started creating antibodies to go against the food that you're eating, right? You're not producing it, you're eating it. Kind of like autoimmune diseases. Well, autoimmune diseases, basically, a majority of autoimmune diseases, you're not born with it. It's because your gut became so permeable that something, just one little thing, triggered it, that now a protein that kind of resembles that you eat, resembles a protein, let's say like a liver, or let's say like your thyroid. Once it resembles something, now what is going to happen is your body going to produce antibodies to attack whatever protein that is, or it resembles it. So that's called molecular mimicry when it comes to your body producing antibodies that basically goes against autoimmune diseases, And once this happens, now every single time, that's when people come up with lupus. That's when people come up with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. These things happen due to what you consume and how permeable your gut is, So hopefully y'all learned something today. Excuse the background because people are working on the street. But what I want y'all to do is, if you want to cut out any type of carb, the absolute carb that you want to cut out is bread. Now, you having bread 7 times a day or 7 days a week is totally different from you having bread once or twice. You're going to your Mexican restaurant every 2 weeks and you have some queso and chips. That's not going to kill you. It's about what you're doing throughout the course of a week. So if you're having bread every other day and you're noticing that you're starting getting more bloated, you start receiving a lot of inflammation, you start feeling sick, you're getting hypoglycemia, you start getting jittery, that's a problem. The human body's not supposed to be doing all that, If your body's able to receive that type of food. So once again, hopefully y'all learned something today. That's your reset tip of the day. That's going to help you stay snatched all the time. Know the summertime, the background's getting crazy, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. All right, talk to y'all soon.